What do you do when someone you love tells you that they're possessed by a werewolf? If you said Google it, then you'd be correct. But what if your significant other was a part of the infamous Southend Werewolf case that the Warrens investigated? Then you'd probably say run away. Well, let me introduce you to the terrifying tale of the Southend Werewolf. Hi, I'm Malcolm Walker on Wild But True. And in this episode of Top 5 Scary, we're counting down the top 5 most monstrous possessions, starting with No. 5. The year 1980s and the location, Essex, England. That's where our story begins, with a man named Bill Ramsey who, after a life of petty crime, turned his life around for the love of his life. They were approached by two men, and a fight ensued. When Bill's wife tried to break up the fight, she was bitten on the hand. But soon after, her wounds began to look like they were caused by an animal bite, which led her to believe that the men had sent an animal to attack her. She told her husband about the incident and showed him the bite marks. And the next night, they heard scratching noises and howls coming from outside their bedroom window. They went to investigate and found that their dog was missing. When Bill went to tell his wife that he found the dog bit him. And then he remembered the fight with those two men from earlier in the week. When he looked at his hand, he saw that the skin had ripped apart and exposed the bone underneath. At that moment, he knew that something inside him had changed. As time went on, he experienced violent outbursts, uncontrollable strength, and he even grew hair in places that he didn't before. Lorraine believed that these changes were due to a werewolf spirit possessing Bill, and she reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. The couple traveled to England and arranged for a local bishop, Robert McKenna, to perform an exorcism. And though they did not make it to the actual exorcism, Lorraine claimed that the ritual was successful in banishing the werewolf spirit. But others have claimed that Bill was suffering from a rare psychological illness called lycanthropy, which can cause one to feel as though they are possessed by an animal, in this case, a wolf. But I think there's enough evidence here to suggest otherwise. Bill was well known in his community for his violent mood swings and animalistic rage. He was even labeled the Beast of Britain by the media. After hearing his story, the Warrens brought the case back to the United States and documented it in their lectures and writings, though it may seem a bit far-fetched. And though many skeptics may scoff at the idea of werewolves and other cryptids existing, the fact remains that there have been cases throughout history where animals have exhibited human-like behavior, including dogs biting their owners without provocation. So who's to say that the opposite can't happen? In any case, the Southend Werewolf is one of the most famous cryptid cases ever investigated by the Warrens. And because of its fame, it has inspired countless other stories in books, TV shows, and movies. And now you know why. What's your take on the Southend Werewolf? Do you believe that Bill was genuinely possessed by a werewolf spirit, or that he was just a man who was mentally unwell? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe.